Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today I'm getting ready to start working on a little project to repair casting off of a threading machine. This is for, I believe, like doing pipe threads on pipe, and there's a casting on here, and unfortunately a piece broke off of this. This is a project that I'm helping out a fellow YouTuber on, and the person I'm going to be working with on this is Leo, and Leo is with the Sampson Boat Company. That's the name of his YouTube channel. I know some of you guys watch his YouTube channel because I've gotten messages from you about some of his content. Leo is in the process of doing just an unbelievable restoration project on a 1910 gaff cutter. This is a wooden ship, boat, whatever you want to call it, pretty good sized boat, borderline ship. But he is doing a complete teardown restoration on this thing where he is replacing a lot of the wood, replacing pretty much a lot of stuff in there and totally redoing a early wooden ship. Amazing stuff. He does an outstanding job. I've actually consulted with him a couple of times on a couple other machines that he has, and he reached out to me and asked if I could help him on this project. I said, yeah, I think it'd be a cool thing to do. So anyway, Sampson Boat Company, if you're not familiar with this channel, go check him out. And let me zoom you in here and show you what we got going on with this piece, and let's get started on trying to get it fixed. So here's the casting in question, and this piece here, it bolts onto, I think the pipe comes out of this end, and this is where the threading dies and stuff are on. There are two rails that go into some bronze bushing pieces here which this slides on. I've actually got the rails he sent over here as well. But on this side right here, we got a piece that goes on here, has a tube that the brass bushings are in. It's got a little rack here, I think, where it can move in and out, and snapped off, broke. So the plan here is a couple of things. Number one, we've got to repair this. We got to put this back on. Probably just going to braise it back together. That is what I have found that works good for me for repairing cast iron, and I think it's going to do just fine here. The other thing we need to do is that these bronze bushings in here that slide on these rails are extremely worn. In fact, one of them was almost completely worn through in a spot. So we're going to go ahead and replace the bronze bushings. I'm going to have to replace the ones in this side regardless. So my plan is we're going to go ahead and knock this one out over here and put new bushings in here. He said along the rails, I need to do these have got some pretty excessive wear in them as well. They're probably all right. I'm going to talk to him a little bit. We may end up replacing these as well. To be determined on that, though. We'll figure that out a little bit later on. Probably once I get it back, all this together, we'll see how they slide in there and whether that's necessary or not. But we'll make that call later on. So right now, first step is I need to get the bronze sleeve out of here. There was one over here on this side, and I was playing around with it before I started shooting video, and I had it out pretty quick, just taking a hammer and a punch and just punching it out. This one's going to probably be a little bit more in depth because it's so much longer, but I'm going to see if we can get it on out as well, and then we'll go from there. So this bronze sleeve is just a little thin piece of metal, and it just is literally pressed down in there. And I got this one out just tapping it with a punch. I'm going to see if I can get this one out too. Just so you'll know, there's actually two bushings in here. There's one in the bottom, there's one in the top. There's a gap in between them where some oil and stuff can get in there and collect. It's not one piece, there's actually two pieces. The top one was what was left of that sleeve right there. It snapped off along with the casting. So I'm just going to try to knock it out with a punch and a hammer. I could take this over to the press and try to press it out, but there's such a small lip in there to grip on. I don't know how well it's going to press out. One on the other side I might be able to press better than this one. See if we can get it to come on out. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this over to my other bench. I'm going to probably put some heat on here with a torch, see if I can expand it out, see if it'll come out any easier. Got my rosebud going here on my torch. And we will gently apply some heat here. I'm going to start with just a little bit of heat instead of really trying to get it red hot, and see if that's all it takes. Well, this side is being stubborn. I flipped it over. I'm going to see if I can drive the other side out first, just because I think I can get in there straighter with my punch if I get that other bushing out first. So let's see how this one comes. And it's coming. There we go. Got that side out. Now I'll continue on this other side. So still trying to get that bottom bushing out of here, and what I ended up doing was going over to my lathe and just turning a punch that just barely fits down inside that outside diameter, and hopefully that'll engage that punch or that sleeve in there. We can drive it out. Yeah, it's coming. There we go. There's that sleeve. That appears to be coming out, so let's continue on. Making sure this thing isn't binding up in that bore. So far we seem to be good. There it goes. And that looks like it was actually two bushings that were back to back with one another. So all right, that's got that done. Let's see about getting this piece brazed back together. So next step is going to be to braise this back together. I got my pieces here. Before I do that, I'm going to clean this up really good, get a wire wheel in here, and just get all this old paint off, try to get it cleaned up as good as I can. I'm going to bevel this metal out so I have a nice place for that braise to flow in. And to align these, since I got this nice pin that we made, that's a nice fit, we can use that to kind of index the pieces together. And as far as the alignment goes, there's actually a hole right here and here. This looks like a set screw or something. Alignment pin went in there anyway, so I think I can get that rigged back up together to just index it in place. I believe that when this was new, that this was not cast as one piece, that there was a collar that raised up in here, and then this piece went over that collar, because it's not cast solid all the way out here. And it's just probably was made that way because this would have been a really difficult part to cast with the overhangs and all that. It was easier to cast it in two pieces and put it together. But there's no reason why they need to be separate from one another. Once they were put together, they were pretty much turned into one piece, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to turn it back into one piece when we braise it. So that's kind of my game plan. I think that after we get this done, I will bore this whole bore out just a little bit oversized, just to make sure that I got a perfectly round circle all the way down through there, to make sure that we don't have any misalignment, so that when we press the new bushings in, we'll have same size, same diameter all the way down. No chance of hitting a step or anything in here when we get down to that point. That's my game plan. I'm going to get my wire wheel out, get this over. We'll bring you back when we start doing some brazing. All right, I have wire wheeled this, tried to get all the paint, the gunk, everything just down to bare metal. I also took a grinder and I ground a bevel around that. I ground a bevel around this piece so that we've got a nice area for those two areas to come together. Let's take our pin that we made, put that in there. This will come on top. You can feel it where it kind of finds its home, but to further secure that, see, where'd my bolt go? I mentioned there's a hole right here. You see there's a tapped hole there. There's a hole in this piece, and that is to align those two pieces together. That's how they were aligned when it was put together. The bolt obviously comes out when it's in use, but that positions that right where it needs to be. I think I'm going to get a clamp, put across it this way, pull it together, and we'll go over there to the welding bench and start heating this thing up to braise it. Let me go get a clamp for this thing, and I'll meet you over at the bench. All right, guys, got my torch out. We're going to start heating this thing up, and we're going to braise it. Now, every time I do brazing, I get a ton of questions about brazing, and so instead of trying to do it in the comments, I'll just do it while we're heating up. Number one, why am I brazing? Why am I not welding this? All right, the reason is that I'm dealing with cast iron. Cast iron does not weld very easily. I'm not going to say it can't be welded traditional welding, but it's not as easy and straightforward as it would be welding steel. You can do it. There's special rods out there for doing arc welding, but I'll be honest with you guys, I have not personally had good luck with that. I've had excellent luck with brazing, so I tend to stick with brazing. Why not TIG braze it? Well, TIG brazing would definitely be an option here, particularly on this part. I prefer using the torch because I like to get a good preheat on my metal. With TIG brazing, you tend to have a very focused heat right there at that arc. I like to have a wider flame type heat that I can do when I'm brazing. So would it work? Yeah. And I've had pretty good luck TIG brazing. I tend to like the TIG braze thinner pieces of metal though, rather than big thick castings. And like I said a while ago, this piece is borderline. It would probably TIG braze just fine for me. But honestly, again, I just have more confidence with my torch. So that's what we're going to be using here. Let me get some heat in here. We'll get this heat up about cherry red, and we'll start flowing some braise in there. A little bit more about my setup. You saw my pin going through there. You saw the bolt we got, and then I just put a C-clamp on here to hold it nice and tight while we're brazing. Everything should be perfectly positioned, or as perfectly as I can get it. Starting to see some color in here. We're getting real close to brazing temperature. I like to see a nice even cherry red around my part. I don't want my part, the casting, to melt, but I want to get plenty of heat in there. We'll introduce some braise, and we just kind of let it flow right down in there. I'm using a flux brazing rod here. The flux is on the brazing rod already, and that's just flowing right down in that gap. A little bit difficult going downhill. I'll probably change the position of this as we go around. Ideally, you want the heat in the metal to kind of melt the brazing rod more so than the torch when you're brazing. It's just something you get a feel for after a while. I'm not sure how much more I'm going to be able to do on this side because I'm kind of going downhill. We'll see what we can do here. All right, continuing on here. Try to get down in there a little bit. Rotate it again. Another reason I'm a big fan of brazing over welding is I've had the opportunity over the years to work on quite a few old machines that I've restored, and many of those have had damage at some point in the time where they had to be repaired. I cannot tell you how many times I have seen brazed repair parts on old pieces of machinery. And many of those repair parts were done decades, in some cases not centuries ago. Some of these machines I worked on are well over 100 years old. And in every case, I can't really think of a single time that I've seen a brazed joint that has failed. I'm sure that some has at some point, but I just haven't seen them. And I can also tell you with the work that I've done, I've had very few failures. I had some really before I learned how to braze really well, and I wouldn't say that I'm a great brazier now, but I'm an adequate brazier. But it works well. It holds up well, and it stands the test of time. All right, guys, that part has been brazed. I'm going to reposition it again, and I'm going to throw a blanket over this and just let it cool down nice and slow. All right, this is a welding blanket. It's just basically like a fire blanket. I'll tell you what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go in here like this with it. And it's made for high temp applications like this. I'm just gonna wrap it up. That just helps things slow down the cooling process. Lets it cool very slowly, and that helps it prevent any cracks from coming in there as it cools down. All right, guys, I have let this cool down overnight, and I did come in here, just took a die grinder and just kind of put a nice radius in there to where it didn't look so bad from the rough brazing, just smoothed it up a little bit, left plenty of material in there for strength. But I think we got a nice sound repair here, and I think we're good to go for our next step. And up next, we're going to need to replace the bushings in here. So I don't have the bronze in-house right now, so I've ordered some bronze bushings, and we'll be getting those in probably in the next couple of days, and we'll be machining those to actually fit the bore and also to fit the shafts that go through there. I ordered it 1.25 inches inside diameter, so hopefully they're going to slide on the shafts. All I'll have to do is turn the outside diameter to match my bores here and press them in, and hopefully we'll be done. One thing that I'm not certain about, and I'm gonna have to probably wait until I get my bronze here, is where the two pieces came together in here. I'm feeling inside here, it feels like I can probably press those things in without having to do any boring on the inside of this. So I'm gonna probably just try it out, see if we can get away without having to bore this hole. I would rather not, but if I have to bore it out just a little bit oversized, it's no big deal because I can turn the outside diameter of the brass, or the bronze here rather, to whatever it needs to be. And for my bushings, I'm just going to do 2 inches on either end. It's going to leave a little bit of a gap in the middle on both sides, and that's kind of the way it was before. There was 2 bushings on each one, and it actually had that gap, and that would be a place where oil could kind of collect in there and help keep it lubricated on those shafts. So that's where we're at, and I think that's pretty much going to be a wrap on what we can do until I get my bushings in. Once I get those in, we'll finish this project up and get this thing headed back out to Leo. Well, that's going to be all we get done on this video today. So once we get our bronze back in, we'll get in and finish this thing up. Hopefully get this part put back together and headed back out to Leo at Sampson Boat Company so he can use this machine in the restoration of the Tally-Ho. If you haven't already, go check out Leo's YouTube channel. And if you haven't already, also please subscribe to mine. Greatly appreciated if you would. Comments are appreciated. And guys, we'll catch you on the next video. Thanks for watching.